Broadcasting from the Rude Air Conditioning Studios. The 24/7 home for those who represent Team Tampa Bay. We are 95.3 FM, W237CW Pinellas Park, WRUB HD3 Clearwater, and the mighty 620 WDAE St. Petersburg. Streaming live right now on your free iHeartRadio app. All your sports, music, talk, and podcasts. Hey, Tampa Bay, free has never sounded so good.
Welcome home, baby. I like this kind of party.
Putting the fun in dysfunctional.
Yeah!
Each and every weekday morning, the Pat and Aaron Show.
Is it a little too early for being that loud?
Good morning, Tampa Bay.
And here we go.
Now your hosts, Pat Donovan and Aaron Jacobson.
Good morning, goons. Welcome to the Pat and Aaron Show, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. Coming to you live on a Tuesday morning, and you know what that means.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is?
Taco Tuesday!
Usually that Jack and Aaron are talking about like Game of Thrones or Taco Tuesday, and you can't listen to them.
Let me give you some advice, bastard. Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not. Wear it like armor.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
It is a Game of Thrones and Taco Tuesday here on the Pat and Aaron Show on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. And I got a good feeling about today's show. Just literally seconds before the show, I got a really good feeling about today's show. For the first time in, I don't know, what's it been? It's been like over a week. Every time we tweet out the show, it says the T-Kratz is on, and he's going to be talking about the Rays playing at Steinbrenner. And, of course, that is not true. But today, it actually tweeted out the Pat and Aaron Show is live on a Game of Thrones and Taco Tuesday. So that alone tells us it's going to be a good show. It's going to be a fun show today. Hopefully, listen, it's going to be fun, but we're also frustrated because of what today is and could be by this evening when we get news, whenever we're going to find out. And I don't know how long this thing's going to take. Hopefully they don't vote in 5 minutes. I'm sure everyone knows the way they're going to vote, but I'd rather it be talked about. And, of course, we're talking about the Rays Stadium, which comes up for a vote again today with the Pinellas County Commission. And we know there are at least a couple of no votes. We've spoken probably ad nauseum about Chris Latvala. I'm not going to give out his number today or his email today because it's the day. Nothing's going to change. And the reality is this dude voted against it originally. So I'm not going to waste any more time on him. But it really is a massive day for the Tampa Bay area, obviously for St. Petersburg, and for Tampa Bay Rays fans, every single one of us. If you love this baseball team, and I imagine I know some of you aren't baseball fans, some of you may have hold on to whatever allegiances you've had from the past, but I imagine if you're listening to my voice at 6:03 in the morning on the Pat and Aaron Show. Aaron will be back tomorrow, by the way, and I'm sure he'll have plenty to say. I know he has plenty to say about this. I mean, he called in for a couple minutes on his way to pick up a friend from the airport the other day. So he'll have plenty to say about this tomorrow. But it's a big day today as we find out if the Rays will get the votes from the county commission. It sounds like the chances are this thing's going to get delayed again. And if you listen to Stu Sternberg's comments to the Tampa Bay Times, it doesn't sound good. And it's very, very frustrating as a Rays fan. And all we have to do today, all we can do today, is sit here and hope. Now, I referenced yesterday that I exchanged a couple of texts with our friend Ken Hagan about, hey, listen, it looks like St. Petersburg is getting ready to drop the frickin' ball on this thing. Like, is there anything that can happen on the Tampa Bay side? And I know they're not willing to just give up and let the Rays walk away without trying something. He has told us right here on this show in the past, Hillsborough is not going to have the kind of money that Pinellas is. And that's why this thing is almost 100% not going to happen on the Hillsborough side. Let's be honest. I want it in Hillsborough. I think a lot of you want it in Hillsborough. But the reality is, if you listen to leadership there, who, by the way, also would love it in Hillsborough, the funding just isn't there. So I mentioned yesterday when we had some other stuff, and I just didn't want to get to this just yet, that I had things swirling in my head, a bit of a Hail Mary. And when I say Hail Mary, do you remember that pass that Jaden Daniels completed a couple of weeks ago? That Hail Mary that, was so unlikely.
Amazing.
Remember Aaron Rodgers' Hail Mary like a week or two before that?
Always incredible.
Those would pale in comparison to this Hail Mary. So when I say this with the understanding that it is probably completely unlikely. And this is something I floated to our friend Ken Hagan. I said, what if we do this? What if we implore a couple of people that could probably help raise a whole bunch of money to potentially get behind this Rays ballpark in Hillsborough County if St. Pete drops the ball? Listen, if St. Pete gets it done, if they vote this thing through, which, again, doesn't sound like it's imminent, then I'm fine. I like most of you. I think a lot of you anyways. I don't know most of you. I think so. I believe Tampa is the better spot for this ball club. I've said that as long as I've been on the air here. That said, Tampa has shown they are not ready to step up financially and make it happen. So as a Rays fan, I'll drive to St. Petersburg. I'll go to a new ballpark in St. Petersburg before I'm willing to watch them walk, which, again, is what I think is the only other possibility. But what if? What if? And this is what I texted Ken Hagan, and he seemed to, and he'll be on the show with us soon. We were texting and we were talking about that, but he seemed to, without saying it, think it was quite a long shot as well. This Hail Mary that I'm proposing. But what if, just what if, we had a couple of people that were just, had a couple of dollars in the bank, and a couple of friends with a couple of dollars in the bank that could really figure something out. And when I say figure something out, I mean like something way above my head, because I'm not that smart and I am not a billionaire, right? Met a couple, but I'm guessing in my lifetime probably not going to be probably not going to be a millionaire, let alone a billionaire. But what if? Think about this for a second. Jeff Vinik recently, as you know, sold what will be controlling interest of the Tampa Bay Lightning to a couple of, by the way, super rich, awesome Jeff Vinik, billionaire. Sold controlling interest, and he's going to have, as we all know, control of the team for a while, and things are going to stay the same, so it's not that bad. Eventually, the guy was going to move on at his age. But he sold controlling interest to a couple of other super rich billionaires, Doug Ostrover and Mark Lipschultz. And these guys are just loaded. And they got some friends that might have a couple bucks too. And I just think to myself, if I were a billionaire and I was about to be, or really am, a part owner, a majority stake owner in an NHL franchise in a growing city that I've now come into, and I'm now joining Jeff Vinik, right? And everything Jeff Vinik's done to make Tampa Bay and Tampa in general a better and more beautiful city. I ask myself, are we less of a sports city? Is it possibly bad for the value of my franchise if we lose a baseball team. Because I think it does. It takes a chunk out of the way you're viewed as a sports city whenever a city loses a sports franchise or a region loses a sports franchise. So would it be in my best interest as a super rich billionaire who owns a hockey team to make sure that the city I'm in continues to expand and become greater? Is it better for me if the Rays are in my backyard? And I think the argument can well be made that it is. Not only that, these two gentlemen, they are replacing eventually somebody in Jeff Vinik who is beloved here for everything he's done for this city. How could you ever come close to being looked at like Jeff Vinik if you're Doug Ostrover and Mark Lipschultz? I'll tell you how. You save baseball. You save baseball for this region. That's how you do it. That's how you, those three together would be looked at as, oh man, what heroes if they saved baseball for Tampa Bay, which we might be in a position where we need it saved. Unfortunately, as early as today, this whole thing could blow up in St. Pete, even though, as I saw text yesterday to Rock Riley and Chris Mathis, who were in on the drive, vroom, vroom, saw that text. Somebody said there's billboards here to stay all over the place. And now, who knows? Again, everything I just said, I think, is a complete long shot. Maybe long shot is not even putting it right, like beyond a long shot. But maybe, just maybe, that's an opportunity for us. All right. When we return, it is time for today's top headlines. Want to remind you, though, I know a lot of you, just like our friend John Howard, you lost a lot in either Helene or Milton. John and his family, they had feet of water in their home after Helene. And a lot of you were in a spot where
To the Pat and Aaron Show on WDAE. Streaming live on Alexa and the free iHeartRadio app. Top headlines.
Time for today's top headlines, brought to you by Mark Spain Real Estate and Casey Warner's Very Intelligent Dome. Mr. Warner, what are the top stories in all of the land?
First things first, it's been a top story for the last few weeks, and it continues to be a top story. The Dallas Cowboys fumbling the bag. They fall to 3-7. The Texans go to 7-4. 34-10 victory for the Texans in Jerry's World last night. And yes, and I gotta say, that should be all of you out there laughing at me for betting on the Cowboys to cover, because our good friend Andrew Cunningham, who has joined us on the show, betting expert, he had that as one of his picks last night.
Did he? Wow.
Cowboys plus 7.5. And I tailed it as part of my parlay. I needed that and some C.J. Stroud magic, and I don't think any of them hit. I think maybe C.J. Stroud's over in passing yards hit. He had 257 passing yards, no touchdowns, an interception. Cooper Rush had a decent game, 354 yards passing, a touchdown, an interception, but the Cowboys can only turn it into 10 points, and they get mopped up by the Texans.
Yeah, that's the only bet I actually won this weekend. Football weekend, Monday kind of being included. I actually took the Texans to cover, and it's the only thing I got right. Well, I shouldn't say it's the only thing I got right, because I got 4 out of 5 on a 5-leg parlay. It's screwed in the last leg, but,
It happens.
That's the only bet I won all weekend. I have $18.70 in my Hard Rock Sportsbook app because I won that bet last night. Otherwise, I'd be sitting on 0.
Hey, more than I have, man. And I mean, I tell you what, did you see that first quarter fake punt that the Cowboys threw?
You know what? I was toast.
Good gosh.
I wasn't feeling all that well yesterday.
Yeah.
And I went home, and I didn't get to nap as long as I would have liked because I just got woken up. And I was just so tired. I went to bed, I think at like 8:30. I went to bed really early, and I still slept until almost 4 o'clock. It was wonderful.
Yeah, no,
I
gotta
needed
love that.
it.
Yeah, no, we all need that sometimes, especially on a Monday blues. I hear you, man. So, not only did the Cowboys look bad on the field, their field looked pretty bad once again. A couple weeks ago, of course, the light shining through, causing CeeDee Lamb to drop a touchdown pass. Well, right before the game kicked off, there was a piece of sheet metal that fell from Jerry's World roof and was within feet of people. Could have potentially hit them, and then they still had some metal up there stuck in the roof. They opened up the roof for the first time in 2 years. Here's my thing. Why are we building these retractable roof stadiums if we're not going to open them for 2 years? Well, what's the point?
Yeah, it's pretty weird. I don't know why you wouldn't open it for 2 years. You'd think for some reason there'd be, for football games, it'd be it's probably enough nice weather in Dallas, I would imagine. I've never been. I don't think I want to. Too many cowboy hats for me. But just in general, it is really weird. I think most of them do open more than that, but that whole situation in Dallas is just odd. They were talking to Jerry Jones about, why wouldn't you close the curtains so that there wasn't all that sunlight in your wide receiver's face? And then did you notice all the talk after the Tyson Jake Paul fight?
Wait, what about it?
Did you notice all the talk about it after the fight?
What, the stadium?
So you were talking about the sunlight getting in and getting in CeeDee Lamb's eyes.
Right.
So everybody noticed early during the Paul Tyson fight, not during the actual fight, because at that point it's who knows what time, but at some point during the event, they closed the curtains.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone lost their mind on social media. Well, hold on.
Yeah, okay.
You closed the curtains for
I know.
For this fight, but not for your $100 million wide receiver?
It's a little odd. And if you got to know what Jerry Jones said, this is his quote from after it happening. The NFL, wouldn't have done this game or started this game had there been any risk at all. The NFL wouldn't, but I wouldn't if there was any risk at all. There was no risk at all when we started this game. So they opened up the roof for a brief second.
Was there any risk, though?
I don't know, man.
No risk at all.
No risk at all, apparently. They open up the roof and they close it right back up, and there's still metal hanging from the ceiling. There was a guy up there they showed in the pregame that was up there, I guess, making some last-second repairs or maybe getting another piece of metal down. Very interesting, though, for a stadium that we know has so much money and, is known as one of the most prestigious stadiums in all of football, not just pro football. I think it's hilarious to see what's happening to the Cowboys right now. And just to give you an idea, I'm obviously a very passionate Rams fan. Get that from my dad. He sends a text to our Rams group text last night. There's only one thing that warms my heart like winning Rams football, and that is the Dallas Cowboys imploding in every way week after week. And I'm sure you, as being a NFC East fan growing up, can appreciate that as well, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah, that, and just listen, even if I hadn't grown up a Giants fan, the Dallas Cowboys are hilarious because every year I'm told, and it happened again this year like it does every other year, that they are actually going to be Super Bowl contenders. And then they, at some point, as I always say, prove that they are Fugazi. And this year it did not take long. But, yeah, no, they're just, and, you know, I've always hated the teams that people loved for stupid reasons, like the Star. Like, there's Dallas Cowboys fans all over the country for no other reason than the logo. Same thing with the Las Vegas Raiders, like when they were the Oakland Raiders.
The Yankees.
The Yankees, yeah, as well. There's a handful of those teams where just like the Chicago Bulls were that for a long time. That has kind of changed. But when I was in high school and Michael Jordan was the bleep, I'm telling you, everybody had a Bulls starter jacket, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody, not me. All right? I was always, I grew up a Lakers fan because my Uncle Mike got me into basketball, and he's from L.A., and that's why, I've always kind of half rooted for the Rams just for him. Not really, but just for him.
Sure.
And I was rooting for the Dodgers in the World Series for him, although I never became a fan of either of those teams. I had already kind of picked a baseball and football team before my uncle got me into basketball, but he's the reason why.
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming increasingly harder to root for the Cowboys, I think, in this generation. So it's pretty funny. And they lose pretty bad last night, and was also announced last night that we have Rookies of the Year in the AL and NL. It is the first pair of starting pitchers to win the award in the same year since 1981. Luis Gil for the Yankees on the AL side and Paul Skeens on the NL side. You got to wonder, could Paul Skeens get Cy Young as well? I mean, could he sweep that? That would be amazing.
Potentially. I don't think he will.
No, I don't think so either, but it'd be impressive.
Yeah, listen, what he's done is impressive anyways. The kid is just outstanding, and congratulations to both of them. By the way, I want to, before we get out of today's top headlines, I do want to mention it's Army-Navy season, and if you're watching on the live stream, you probably noticed I've been wearing the pullover a little bit lately. A, because it's been cool out, but B, I'm getting very excited. Under a month away before we are in D.C. for this year's game. And so I noticed yesterday, Army put out a nice little 3-minute video to show off their jerseys that they're going to wear at Army. And they always, both of them, Army and Navy, every year put together like really outstanding jerseys for the game. So Army released their video, and I'm like, I got immediately every year when it happens, I get very excited for the game. I see the Army video, and I'm like, all right, let me go to Navy's Twitter page, X page, whatever you want to call it. And then I see they didn't put theirs out yet. They just put out a tweet. We prefer to release our uniforms the way we prefer to sing. Second. That's very good. You know what that's about? You know
I don't. I got to say, I really don't.
Oh, man. So what happens is, and I'm telling you, if you ever get to go to Army-Navy game, go. If you get the opportunity, you've got to go. It's an unbelievable experience. And that part is one of the best parts of the entire thing. And we get to do some amazing things during Army-Navy game. But what happens is, after the game, both schools, Casey, run to the side where the side where the team that lost, and both schools sing the alma mater of the team that lost, and then they all run to the team that won, and they sing the alma mater of the team that won second. So if you win, you sing second.
I had no idea. Honestly, did not know that.
Dude, I encourage you to watch it on TV this year. You might even see Aaron and I running around on the field taking pictures and stuff. But watch it because it's a special moment. It's really cool. And when you're there, and especially like we get to be down on the field for this, you can just feel it. And it is special, man. It really is. Hey, today's top headlines, it's presented by Mark Spain Real Estate. Get a guaranteed offer on your home today at markspain.com and then start packing. When we return, I'm going to tell you why the Bucs are not doomed against the Giants on Sunday, even if a lot of you are going to tell me that they are for the dumbest reason ever. Aaron Show, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. It's a Game of Thrones and Taco Tuesday. By the way, Aaron will be back tomorrow, and then you can see his beautiful face as well. I don't know what's going to happen. I had heard rumors that we were going to get a camera on Casey, but I don't know if that has changed. On the Bartow Ford DAE text line, here's the reason I mention it, in case any of you were wondering. Are you on a tight budget for the Pat and Aaron Show? A second camera would be sweet, so we could see more than just Pat's face. No offense, Pat. You need a can on Aaron. I think he means cam. And you need a cam on Aaron and one that shows both of you and a cam in the cage for Casey. That would be entertaining to watch on YouTube.
In the cage. All right.
It's the penalty box around here. But, yeah, no, listen. We even have a third camera. We have a fourth one, but it's like the camera that, you know, I don't know. I don't want to say something inappropriate. It doesn't work right. But we've got a third camera for when there's a third person in the studio. We've even got a camera, yes, for Aaron Jacobson. Aaron is out today, so he'll be back tomorrow. And, again, you'll see his face. But as of now, no camera for Casey, which I wish we did because he goes through like a whole range of emotions in there sometimes. He dances sometimes. Like, I feel like he does a lot of standing, which Aaron and I basically sit on our asses the whole show.
I'm a stander.
Yeah, I feel like there would be a lot of entertaining things. It would be difficult to stand in here, to be honest with you.
It would.
That's the excuse I'm going to use right now. But there would be a lot of entertaining things. You are right, person who texted in, if we had Casey on camera during the show. So hopefully that's something we'll work out in due time. As I noted when we began the show, this is the first time I even got it to tweet out in over a week that it was actually our show on the air and not the drive again in the morning. So my apologies to you. Now, my question I have for Buccaneer fans, by the way, a little bit of small news on the Bucs, if you didn't see. Troy Hill, who they added a week or two ago to the practice squad, they've now signed him to the active roster. And then also they've cut Kayvon Merriweather, which I'm a little surprised by. But when you think about the fact they brought Mike Edwards back, it makes sense. But I have a question for Buccaneer fans. 888-546-4620. You can also text your thoughts to the Bartow Ford DAE text line. It's 82945. Message and data rates may apply. Are you more frightened by a backup quarterback, which is what Drew Lock was for the New York Giants? Or is it even more terrifying as a Buccaneer fan? Because I hear from you all the time, oh, no, rookie quarterbacks. Oh, no, backup quarterbacks. And really right now, when you watch this Bucs defense, it should be, oh, no, that guy's a quarterback. Because I feel like any quarterback should scare us at the moment. But because you are so, and I don't mean all of you, but a lot of you, too many of you Bucs fans, because you are so afraid of backup quarterbacks, I must know, which is more frightening, a backup quarterback or a third-string quarterback like Tommy Cutlets. Now, I know Tommy DeVito, won a couple games for the Giants last year, and he created a bit of a spark, as Brian Daboll said, which is why he alleges the Giants are moving to DeVito, which, yeah, maybe that's true. Oh, DeVito over Drew Lock. But we all know why Daniel Jones isn't playing. And that's because they can't have him get hurt because he has a $23 million injury guarantee. So they're like, we got to get him off the field before we have to pay him more money. The last thing we're doing is paying Daniel Jones more money. But by the way, dead wrong, I'll raise my hand. I've told you since last week that the Giants were, because there was all this talk, not that I know everything. There was just all this talk that common sense said they were probably going to move on from Daniel Jones, which meant sit his ass. But I've been saying to you, oh, yeah, Drew Lock's going to start. Well, it ends up being DeVito. I don't think we should be afraid of either of them, as far as more so than anybody else, more so than a starting quarterback. As I mentioned a couple minutes ago, you probably could make the argument to say, oh, no, that guy's a quarterback about just about anybody in the league right now, because the Bucs just haven't covered anyone recently. Now, hopefully, Jamel Dean's back, and that changes a little bit. Hopefully, we get just a little bit better Antoine Winfield Jr. after a week off, because he hasn't been physically right. He's just not all of a sudden a subpar safety. He's not physically right. 888-546-4620, or text your thoughts to the Bartow Ford DAE text line. Who are you more afraid of, a backup quarterback or a third-string quarterback? Buccaneer John, who are you afraid of?
I'm afraid of nobody, man. We're going to take those guys and put them in a big body bag and send them into the river.
That's exactly the positivity I needed.
Hey, Buccaneer John, thanks for the follow on Twitter, by the way.
That's not really him, you know.
No, really?
Well,
it's not?
Listen.
I think it is. It looks like him, man.
Did somebody use his picture?
Not the picture that we have in the studio, but it looks similar. Like, it looks like him. And he responds to, like, all the station tweets. Like, it only has about 40, 50 followers. I believe it, personally. It has no posts, just responses. No pictures, nothing.
Is that you on Twitter, Buccaneer John?
I don't know. I haven't seen my picture. I have my other phone that I did have that has the 813 number. That was the one that Buccaneer Jeff took a picture of me and him together with.
Oh, yeah. You know, we've got that picture up in our studio on a plaque.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, send the picture to me, man.
I did. You didn't, I don't have your new number, Buccaneer John. All right, listen. You don't need Buccaneer John's number, but you do need John Howard's number if you're in a spot after the hurricanes. And a lot of people are. We know how many people had their homes damaged. Some of them even lost their homes, unfortunately, due to Hurricanes Helene and or Milton. Now, the good news is if you're in one of those spots, which is not going to be easy, you've got a guy like John Howard that you can lean on, who, by the way, is going through the same thing. His house got feet of water in it after Hurricane Helene, and he's dealing with a lot of the same things you are. And because of that, he wanted to make sure, he's always been great at loans, and he always understands loans, but this is a whole different situation when it comes to trying to recover from a hurricane. So he did a ton of research to make sure that he can put you, not just himself, but also put you in the best spot to recover from the hurricane. And right now, if you need a renovation loan to pick up the pieces from your home, or God forbid, a construction loan to rebuild completely, right now, if your home's been damaged by the storm, they have loan products that can work with your insurance payments or payouts, I should say, and get your home back to even better than before the storm. If you happen to be renting before the storm and now you're thinking about buying a home, you could be eligible for a 0% down payment option if you were displaced due to the storms. Of course, that 0% down payment option always available with a VA loan for any of our veterans, which, of course, that's John Howard's strength. He's been doing VA loans forever, and he wants to make sure that veterans get the loan they deserve, which is why he's even teaching other people how to get VA loans. So if you're in either of those spots, believe me, John Howard's the guy to talk to. Also, if you weren't damaged by the storms, but you just, things have been tight and you're not getting a pay raise with all of the inflation that's going on, well, you might need to think about a reverse mortgage or even a cash out refinance, and John Howard can help you with that as well. Whatever it is you're looking for when it comes to a loan, believe me, John Howard's the guy to talk to. Just look up the website, howardteamhomeloans.com, for his phone number. If you're driving, you can pull over, write it down, howardteamhomeloans.com. When we return, 888-546-4620 if you want a chance to win Valspar tickets. That's coming up on the other side, a pair of tickets to the Saturday at Valspar.
Streaming live on Alexa and the free iHeartRadio app.
888-546-4620. 888-546-4620. Your chance to win a pair of tickets to see the Valspar Championship on Saturday. You'll be there for day 3, Saturday, March 22nd. Of course, that's next year at Innisbrook's Golf Club. If you've never been to Innisbrook, it is beautiful. We've been out there for the Valspar a couple of times. I was just sharing my favorite Valspar story with someone the other. Oh, you know what it was? It was I think it was Rock Riley and Jeff Atnella. I was telling them about my favorite story about our good friend Ken Hagan, who I was talking about earlier in the show. He was playing at that. We did our show from the media tent, and as soon as our show was over, we sat down with Ken Hagan, and we were eating and just hanging out. And this guy came storming in the room and ran up and started yelling at Ken Hagan about how he didn't tip his kid well because his kid was Ken Hagan's caddy. And he's like, how dare you effing tip my kid, effing. I don't remember how much he said he tipped him. And the whole time, Ken's just sitting there chilling. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the guy stops yelling, Ken goes, well, this is my caddy. He had his caddy sitting right next to him, friend of his. He's like, this is my caddy, so I don't know what the F you're talking about. And the guy didn't even say sorry, didn't just turn and ran, left the media tent. Not a lot of lunatics like that around, though. Just great golf and a lot of fun. And we'll be out there. I don't remember which day. I don't know if I found out which day yet, but we'll be out there one of the days doing our show live from the Valspar. But you'll be out there on the 22nd if you can answer a trivia question that you'll know the answer to if you've been listening to the show today. We'll start with John in Oldsmar. John, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. What's going on?
Well, we're talking some Bucks football. Not enough today, but we will more. We've got more in the 7 o'clock hour. But we did mention this. The Buccaneers will not be facing Daniel Jones on Sunday when they play the New York Giants. What is the nickname of the quarterback who will start? Not the name, the nickname.
Tommy Cutlets, baby.
That's it. John, congratulations. You are heading to see the Valspar Championship. It is Tommy Cutlets. And hold on, and Casey will get your information. I was saying to Casey earlier, I want to root for Tommy Cutlets. I wish this game was against anyone else, right? If Cutlets is making his debut for the Giants, this year, I know he played last season, against anyone else, I'm psyched for the kid. I love the whole story. I love his family out at the game cooking cutlet sandwiches. Casey came to me before the show. He's like, what the hell's a chicken cutlet? Chicken cutlet sandwiches are amazing. There was a place over on Florida Ave. I don't think they're open. I think they're supposed to open up again. I don't remember the name of them. Something Vinny's cousin or cousin Vinny's or something like that. But they had amazing chicken cutlet sandwiches.
I need to go.
Dude, but they weren't open. I don't think they're open anymore. They were open for a little while. It was this weird thing where, they didn't have, a restaurant. You just, it was I don't know where they cooked out of this little back area of something else. And, you opened up a weird door and, there was your sandwich just waiting for you and you'd take it home. But they made amazing chicken cutlet subs. But, yeah, I want to root for Tommy Cutlets, but obviously on Sunday I won't be doing that at all. And I know a lot of you know I grew up a Giants fan, and the Giants I still root for, no doubt about it, but I will not root for them against the Buccaneers. If there comes a situation, I've explained it to people, I'm basically Donna Kelsey at this point. Casey Warner. I'm Donna Kelsey. If the Bucks and the Giants were to play and the Giants were really good and had a chance to go to the Super Bowl or be a playoff team and the Bucks were just terrible, I'd probably root for the Giants in that game, right? Because it would mean more. In every other circumstance, I'm rooting for the Buccaneers. I am a full-fledged Buccaneer fan at this point in my life. Tampa Bay is home to me in a way that Massachusetts, for instance, where I grew up, never was. And I loved my friends, right? I had a great run in high school. I loved the people I grew up around. But the town itself, I realized when I went back a couple years ago, brings back very little nostalgia for me. Friends, the people do. Some of the food does. But I just happened to be born in Massachusetts. And that's where my mom decided to keep me for a long time, right? As a child. I didn't have my own choice. I probably would have got the hell out of the snow a lot earlier if I did. But Tampa was a decision, and it was one that I thought was going to be a stepping stone, if you will. I didn't expect to stay here because I thought I hated Florida because I didn't like it in fourth grade, and that's how smart I am. I thought, if I didn't like it in fourth grade, I don't like it. But now this is home for me. This is where I want to be. This is again, Massachusetts is a place I was born. I didn't really have a choice. I have a choice whether I want to be here or not, and I do. So because of that, I've adopted all of these teams. They've become my teams. I am a Buccaneer fan. I'm a Rays fan. I'm a Lightning fan in a way that, honestly, when I moved here, I never thought I would be. Because I thought, I'll work there for a little while. I'll get some experience, and I'll move on somewhere where I'd rather live. And then I lived in Tampa Bay for a while, and I was like, oh, wait. This is pretty awesome. I think I want to stay here. And the rest is history. So I am like Ronnie Lane. I got to get him out of this habit. He'll say, on Bucks radio, by the way, he'll be like, yeah, they're playing your New York Giants.
I've heard that before.
I'm like, Ronnie, will you cut it out?
I heard that 2 weeks ago. It was great.
Yeah, I finally said to him on the post-game show, I think it was the last post-game show when I was at Raymond James Stadium, I was like, Ronnie, you got to stop doing that. Yes, I grew up a Giants fan, and because of some things around 9/11 and my first Giants game being just after 9/11 and the way that impacted me, like I think I will always be a Giants fan. But I am a Bucs fan first, and I will always root for the Buccaneers over the Giants, which I never thought I would say. But again, Tampa Bay is my home in a way that I never expected it to be. So, I want it to be Todd Bowles. We're going to need to do a better job. And I said yesterday, I really think this team can still win this division. I really think 6-1, 7-0 might get it done because Atlanta does not look good right now. They do not look good right now. We'll have to see how the Bucs look against the Giants on Sunday. But my expectation is Cutlets, Locks, Drew Lock, that is. I don't care who it is. Daniel Jones. You shouldn't lose to that team. Mike Evans will be back, as Baker told us before the break. We'll see about Jamel Dean. We'll get our first injury report of the week tomorrow. And we've heard nothing, as the teams don't really tell you anything during the bye about Tristan Wirfs or Jamel Dean, some of these guys. You know, I thought maybe we'd lose Tristan Wirfs for weeks, even though it was the good news on his knee. We could still be weeks. And then you talk to Scott Reynolds, who, obviously talks to some people with the team, and he's thinking like, hey, might be back Sunday. If not, it's just probably just precautionary, should be back the following week. That's great news. We'll find out, again, first injury report tomorrow, but Tristan Wirfs or not, Jamel Dean or not, you should beat the New York Giants and then the Carolina Panthers. And again, you look ahead at Atlanta's schedule, the Bucs are going to need some help, and they're going to have to be nearly perfect. Record-wise. The play-wise, we know that's not going to happen. But record-wise, they need to be nearly perfect. 6-1, 7-0. I don't think that's completely unlikely against their schedule. And I also don't think it's completely unlikely that the Falcons go on to drop 3 or 4 more games. This division is still in play. I know I put that on Instagram yesterday, my comments about the division still being in play, and vastly disagreed with. I was called an idiot. I mean, the lack of faith from Bucs fans, not shocking based on the play this season. But come on. Get in. They've got a shot, believe me. All right, we've got a loaded 7 o'clock hour, including we've got more on today's vote for the Pinellas County Commission, of course, about the Rays' new ballpark. Whether a Hail Mary could actually land the Rays in Tampa, I don't think so, but I've got an idea. We'll talk about that. Also, how the Bucs spent the bye week.
free iHeartRadio app.
Hour number 2 of the Pat Aaron Show, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. I was talking before the break about why the Bucs, in my opinion, still have very much a chance at not just making the playoffs, but winning the NFC South. I saw on the YouTubes, I just jumped on the YouTubes to see if any of you guys are chatting over there. D. Lindemann says a while ago, Bucs season is over. Face it, guys. Cousins is a statue, kicked our butts. Well, he is a statue. That is true. And he did beat the Bucs. I wouldn't say they kicked our butts. The Bucs should have won both those games, but he did beat the Bucs twice. Also, somebody said, yeah, the Bucs need to go 7-0 to make the playoffs. That ain't going to happen. They absolutely do not need to go 7-0. They're going to need to go probably at least 6-1. I will say that. But look ahead at the Falcons' schedule and the way they played on Sunday and tell me that's a team that they can't catch. If you look at the Bucs schedule as well. The only good team left on the Bucs schedule is the Chargers. And the way that they played against really just about everyone on their schedule except for Denver tells me they should roll over the Giants. They should roll over the Panthers. They should roll over the Vegas Raiders. Now, maybe they squeak one out that is closer than it should have been, but they should not lose any of those football games. The only game you can justify them losing is the Chargers game. They should win the rest. And I'm telling you, if they're 6-1, there's a good chance they win this division. Because the Falcons are not playing well, and they've got some tough games ahead. At least 3 more that they could lose. And at 6-5, if they lose 3 more, they're 9-8. And if the Bucs go 6-1, they're 10-7. So absolutely, they've got a shot. And on the Bartow Ford DAE text line, somebody texted in, said, Pat, when you said the whole Bucs winning the division thing, I was like, oh, yeah, right. But when you explain the schedule and the scenarios, it is very possible to leapfrog the Falcons. It is. And I know you think I'm crazy. And the Bucs are going to have to do a much better job than they've done. I get that. But they're getting Mike back. Hopefully they get Jamel Dean back. The defense isn't going to be good all season long. I'm not going to tell you. Unless Antoine Winfield Jr. starts to feel like himself and starts making some insane plays, and maybe they can be adequate. But the offense is good enough that if they control the football, control the pace of play, and keep the defense off the field as much as possible, that they should win a lot of these games and might win them all. And maybe I'm crazy for saying that, but I don't think so. I feel like I'm going to go crazy today if I find out that the Pinellas County Commission votes even to delay the vote for the bonds is bad news. It's so frustrating and infuriating as a Rays fan. And listen, are there fair arguments to be made about whether or not this is a great deal for the taxpayers of St. Petersburg? Sure. But don't stand in front of us. And it wasn't like the Rays did it without the city. The mayor was there. People from the city council, from the commission, like they were all there. And we've had press conferences, as somebody pointed out yesterday on the text line, but I saw it when I walked in here. There are billboards up, here to stay. I've got a little pin at home. I should start wearing it on my lapel with a little black line through it for sadness. Here to stay. Well, now we have no idea because it's all up in the air again. And I know part of it's the hurricanes and you can't predict these things. But are we going to let a few $1 million change everything that's been done? It doesn't make any sense to me. And the idea that anyone would vote, and the argument I've seen from Chris Latvala, who's the most vocal, but all the people that are against it, Chris Latvala being the Pinellas County Commissioner who voted against it, by the way, the first time, and now says he'll vote against it if the Rays play in Hillsborough, which they're going to do. his argument is, well, if they play in Hillsborough, we lose the bed tax from all the tourists coming for Rays games. Excuse me? Your argument is, hey, if we lose the Rays for a year and they go play in Hillsborough, we're going to lose the bed tax. We're going to lose the money from tourism. You're going to give it up for 30, 40 years? You're going to give it up for the foreseeable future because of 1 year? It doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense. I just don't understand how we've gotten to the point where we've got pins and all kinds of things that say here to stay, and now we've got to fight this whole thing all over again. It is unthinkable. Like, I spent years thinking, I can't believe it's taken this long to get it done, but I know it's going to get done. And then I finally got to the point, and I feel like when I say this, I'm speaking for a lot of you, because you probably feel this way as well. We're all Rays fans. I mean, a lot of us. I know there's people listening that may not be, but for the Rays fans, I think we all feel this way. For years, it felt like, can't believe it's taken this long, but I know it's going to get done. And then finally, and I don't remember exactly when it was, but I started to feel like, you know what? Maybe this isn't going to get done. Maybe they are going to leave. And then, boom, here to stay. Here to stay. And I felt so relieved. So relieved. Some people might say vindicated. I don't give a damn if I'm right or wrong. If I spent years saying that the Rays were going to leave us one day and then they didn't, I'd rather be wrong. We're in this business because we love sports, not because we think we're geniuses. I know, at least me. I don't care if I'm right or wrong. So I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt relieved as a Rays fan. Like, oh, God. Really wish it was going to be in Tampa. But, hey, at least we're not losing our team. And now, after that, finally, that sense of relief as a Rays fan, like, the second half of the year was like, well, this team kind of sucks right now, but they'll probably be really good next year, and at least they're not going anywhere. At least they're not going anywhere. And now, hey, Joe, do you have a second? Joe from the Joe Show on FLZ is in the control room. Joe, do you have a second? No, I don't think he hears me. Because Joe from the Joe Show, massive Rays fans, they actually I was so jealous that he has better ideas than me. Because Joe and the Joe Show, they spent a night at the Trop at the end of the season like they slept there. And they did this whole promotion around it. And it was so cool. And I was like, I totally want to bite your idea. And I want to do the same thing. I don't care if it's unoriginal or not. I want to get to stay at the Trop. And, yeah. That's probably never going to happen. I mean, who knows?
Probably not now. But
well, definitely not right now.
Yeah.
If they repair it and they're back next year playing at the Trop and everything's copacetic, we figure it out with the county commission and all that stuff, and here to stay is back on, who knows? But as of right now, yeah, right now I don't want to stay there.
No.
It is a frustrating time. It's a massive day for the Tampa Bay region when it comes to trying to keep this team here. And we're going to see what the county commission does today. I'm not optimistic. I am not optimistic at all. I would be optimistic if I was thinking about getting married. I'm not, because I've been married for almost 20 years. But maybe you're in that spot. Maybe you're thinking about getting married soon. If you are, Chris Mathis, or anybody else who might be listening, just saying, the final store-wide sale of the year is this weekend at International Diamond Center. Get extra savings store-wide. Save up to 20% off virtually everything in the store, or you can get 3 years, 0 interest divine financing. We're talking about extreme value right now. The best deals of the year on rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, pendants, designer jewelry, you name it. And it's like double the selection with all of the industry's top designers here with their entire collections with everything on sale. Big name designers from New York and Los Angeles here with all of their new styles. And we're talking about tons of new styles. All the latest designs from Verragio, Simon G, and many more. If you're looking to make your money go farther, this is a great opportunity for you. You're going to get up to 20% off, or like I said, 36 months, zero interest financing. That's right, zero interest financing. Think about it. A $3,000 pair of diamond earrings, just $84 a month. Or anything you want to buy there, you can spread it out over 36 months. It's a 3-day, $60 million event with the lowest prices you're going to find before the holidays, including over 1,000 new diamonds they just purchased just for this event with all the hard-to-find shapes and sizes. You cannot miss it. It's this weekend, November 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, only at International Diamond Center in Tampa, Clearwater, Lakeland, and Sarasota. You can find out more at shopidc.com. If you missed the first hour, I talked about a thing that possibly, a Hail Mary that possibly could save the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't think it's very likely. I can't believe, unless we know that because of Tampa Bay being what it is, right, which is a transient area, we've got a lot of people that are not from here. So unless you're not a Buccaneer fan or just not paying attention, I don't know how you could actually believe this text if you're the one who sent it. Ha, 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 ha. Bucks win the division. They'll be lucky to win 3 of the final 7 games. Oh, it says with our clown DC/head coach. So if you say our, I'm assuming that you are a fan. I don't know how you can be a Buccaneer fan and think you're not going to win more than 3 of the final 7 games. I just don't. Like, if you tell me you don't believe in Todd Bowles, I get it. Okay? I'm not ready to fire the guy today. We'll see what Aaron says when he comes back. He was on a roller coaster last year. He'll be back tomorrow, by the way. As far as fire or don't fire Todd Bowles, I try to be a little bit more measured. I'll let the season play out. They've lost 4 in a row. I get it. But when you look at the way they've played, and I won't even go back to the Lions and Eagles victory, right? Because that's a long time ago. When you look at how they played against the Chiefs and the Niners, without Mike Evans, without Jamel Dean, who should both be back soon. And again, you hope that guys that aren't 100%, like clearly Antoine Winfield Jr. is not, will get healthier over the bye week and look more like himself. But even without any of that, you were right there against the Niners and you took the Chiefs to overtime. Looking at how they played against those 2 teams, I don't know how you can sit there and honestly believe, if you do, that they can't win more than 3 games against the Giants, the Panthers, the Raiders. Chargers will be tough. The Cowboys, the Panthers, and the Saints. How can you be a Buccaneer fan at all and look at that schedule and think, oh, they can't win at least 4 of those? Just with the Panthers, Giants, and Raiders, that's 4 games. I have no idea. Like, saying you don't think they're going to win out, I get it. Saying you don't think they're going to go 6-1, I get it. They can't win 4 games against this schedule? I'll tell you what, if they don't, Todd Bowles probably should be fired. But they will. They'll win at least 4 of these games. And I think they're going to win at least 6. And I think they could win all 7. I really do. Because as bad as things have been defensively, they're still competitive. And they're going to get, I don't know if they're going to get much better defensively. They get better offensively just by having Mike back. Period. All right. Earlier in the show, I mentioned that and I mentioned it before the break, that I had a bit of a Hail Mary that I don't even know if I should say I think it can work. I think it's something we should at least try as a community. And I've texted our friend Ken Hagan, who's obviously been very involved on the Hillsborough side of things when we thought the Rays could possibly come to Tampa. And we've learned, and Ken Hagan has told us, they just don't really have the funding. Like, Pinellas was about to come up with $600 million towards the stadium. At least. And according to Ken Hagan, last time we had spoken about this specifically, Tampa wasn't going to come up with much more than 3. If they were going to come up with more than 3. So they were going to come up with about a half as much as Pinellas. And that's just not going to happen. It's just not going to work that way. However, as I said early in the show, what if we were to implore some very rich people to get involved and hopefully get their very rich friends involved, somehow come up with some money when it comes to public backing or private backing, I should say, as far as investments in the stadium and the ball club, which the Rays have already said, to build the ballpark, it may take bringing in investors. So when I think about recent things that have happened here in Tampa Bay, what comes right to mind is Jeffrey Vinnick, the unbelievable owner of the Tampa Bay Lightning, has recently sold controlling interest of the Tampa Bay Lightning to, and again, he'll be involved for years. We don't have to go over all that again. But he's brought in as partners, basically, Doug Ostrover and Mark Lipschultz, a couple of other incredibly rich billionaires. And I made the argument earlier in the show, if I'm one of those guys, the better Tampa is as a sports city, and I think it does. I think you lose a lot when you lose a franchise in the way that you're looked at as a sports city. It's better for me if I'm one of those guys as an investor, as an owner of the Lightning, for the city to be great. And it looks bad for me, for the city, for everything, if you lose a stadium. I should say you lose a franchise because of a stadium. So I texted our friend Ken Hagan. I said, what do we have to reach out to these guys? Can we reach out to these guys? Is there a way, if St. Petersburg were to drop the ball, could we throw a Hail Mary with these three very rich billionaires and some of their friends potentially investing? Could they potentially be the answer how to move the team to Tampa? Our interaction suggested to me he thinks it's a long shot. I think it's an incredibly long shot, or incredible long shot. But what if? I don't think it's impossible. These three guys could probably do it on their own. But obviously, I'm not expecting that. But couldn't they potentially get involved and say, you know what? We need to be part of making sure that Tampa Bay is great. And let's make sure that the Rays stay here because of that. And I don't think it's I think it's completely far-fetched, even though I think it's completely unlikely. But you look at the way Jeffrey Vinnick is viewed in Tampa, and as these two take over, Doug Ostrover and Mark Lipschultz, in my opinion, I'd say you could never be looked at the way Jeff Vinnick is looked at. You'll never be looked at as a hero the way Vinnick is. Unless you save the Tampa Bay Rays. Maybe that's it. I don't think so, but who knows? All right, we've got more coming up on the show. We'll talk about that again as well, but also what did the Bucks do over the bye week to try to make sure they look better than they have in recent weeks? Larry Foote spoke to the media yesterday. We'll let him tell you if they changed anything up during the bye week and what else is
back.
Pat Aaron Show, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. If you want to jump aboard, it's 888-546-4620. You can also text your thoughts to the Bartow Ford DAE text line 82945. Message and data rates may apply. I was talking before the break about the ballpark, and we'd love it in Tampa. And I just said that, hey, our friend Ken Hagan told us $300 million was all that Tampa was going to come up with for the ballpark. Well, Ken texted me. He's a goon. He's an OG, as a matter of fact. He texted me and he said, enjoying a race take, FYI, the $300 million was upfront money. We actually offered much more than $600 million, but it was over time in order to protect the taxpayers. I'm not sure I realized that or understood all that when we had Ken in and we had that conversation. Sometimes this stuff goes a little over my head. It's all so deep and smart, and I'm not. But, man, maybe it's time for the Rays to revisit that a little bit. Because it doesn't sound like a terrible deal, and I don't think it's going to be easy to go anywhere else, even though there are places that we know would pony up right now for the Tampa Bay Rays. But the reality is, I don't think Major League Baseball wants to be out of this market because they want to expand, and you can't expand when teams are moving all over the place because you're going to lose the markets that they would expand to by them picking up other teams like the Oakland A's, like the Tampa Bay Rays. So I think they'd rather, obviously the Oakland A's are on their way to Vegas probably. We'll see what happens with that. But I don't think they want the Rays relocating, and we sure as hell don't. So maybe it's time to reconsider that deal or for something else to be reworked. I don't know. But if St. Pete drops the ball, I sure as hell Tampa's going to get back. Sure as hell hope Tampa's going to get back involved, and I think they will be. All right, let's get Greg in Venice on the horn. He's been holding on. Greg, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning, man. You guys are really great ambassadors for Tampa Bay sports. I'll give you that. That's for sure.
Greg, thank you.
Your hope is never ending, man, and it doesn't go lost on me anyway.
It's got to be, right. Greg. I love it. Right. I love it here. I love the Rays, and it's gonna be really rough if we lose this baseball team.
Because it's tough. I tell you, I've called a few times, but I'm a lifetime guy down here. Born and raised, and it's tough to convert a lot of these Northerners to become true Buck fans. Because when it really comes down to Bucks and Rays and Lightning, because when it really comes down to it, they go to see the games to watch their home teams come and play. That's real evident with the baseball. I mean, when you go to see the Yankees, the stadium is jammed. Oh, well, jammed.
Were you at the Bucks? Greg, were you at the Bucks Niners game?
Yeah.
I mean,
no.
Dude.
No. Okay, no. Now, football, that's my point. Football's our sport down here, brother. Football is Florida. So look at our colleges. Look how strong. Football in Florida.
Well, right now, that's not the best argument.
Well, but they'll come back up, man. Yeah, good point. Well presented. But, Florida is a football state. It always has been, really. I mean, baseball is a nice experiment, and I'm sure it's hopefully making the owner some money, but, and good for the city possibly. But the tourism is our beaches, man, and that's a deal.
You're not
want to go fishing, not watch the Rays. But
Greg, you're not entirely wrong. I do agree with you that football is Florida's first love. This is a football state. I also think that we've got probably 48, 50 football states, right? Like football is king. It always will be. It should be. It's the greatest game on earth. You're never going to get an argument for me for that. However, I do think there's a passionate Rays fan base here. And I think that it's not evident when you watch games on television. I get that. It's not evident at all times. But if you look at the TV ratings, I mean, they're really good. If you look at the radio ratings, they're really like people care about this team. Part of it is the location, and that location is going to have to get a lot better with a rebuild of everything they're going to do down in St. Pete. And I think that will bring more people. I think the new ballpark alone will bring more people. But it's never going to be football here. I agree with you there. But look at how well the Lightning are doing. Because in part they're in Tampa.
If you look at hockey players want to come down here and play golf. Pro hockey players want to come down here and play golf. They want to be in Calgary and all those places where they can't do anything. But
I'm just talking about from
Greg, spring
Greg,
turtle.
Greg,
I love you guys for that.
Greg, slow down a little bit. Let me.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about strictly from a standpoint of how many people are in the building, right? The Tampa Bay Lightning. Right. Everybody thinks, oh wow, they sell out every game, and by the way, they do. And that, for a lot of people, that makes them believe that the Lightning are much more popular than the Tampa Bay Rays. But I'm here to tell you,
less seating.
It is partially less seating, but they have more people there. They get better attendance on a game-by-game basis than the Rays. But the reason is A, location, and B, location, and C, location. Like it's about where it is, because if you look at any other metric, and I'm telling you, when I talk Lightning hockey on this show, Greg, there's no interaction. People, I'm not saying they don't care about the Lightning. There's a passionate fan base for the Lightning. But the fan base for the Rays is much larger and more passionate, in my opinion, because I get many more phone calls, many more texts, many more tweets about Rays baseball than I ever do about Lightning hockey. There's more gear sold. There's more, there are more Rays fans than Lightning fans. But it doesn't look that way because of the buildings. Tampa. Well, I wish we could.
Move to Tampa. I think you're right, man. I think you're right about that. That's for sure. But, hey, it's great talking to you guys always. Keep up the good work, and have a good day, buddies.
Thank you, Greg. Good phone call. I might disagree with you, but I always appreciate the conversation. By the way, congratulations to our friend Ken Hagan getting sworn in again today. I was going to try to get him on the can because he was texting me about the show, but he's a little busy. The Bucs are busy getting ready for the New York Giants on Sunday. I wonder, the person who said they're not going to win more than 3 of their final games, if they think they're going to beat the Giants on Sunday with Tommy Cutlets. But a lot of us have been frustrated, and by the way, they have been as well, as that the way this defense has performed. Yesterday, Larry Foote, obviously linebackers coach, was talking to the media, and he was asked if they decided if they were going to try to do anything differently, if they worked on doing things differently during the bye week.
We want to win the game. We're rejuvenated. We needed that break. We're getting some guys back. We've been in fourth quarter games, and this is the NFL. You got to win the game in the fourth quarter. Got to make the tackles. Got to communicate. We got to make plays. And I don't care what the Giants' record is. I don't care who's the quarterback. We know it's going to be a fourth quarter game, and we got to come up with more plays than them.
I hope it's not going to be a fourth quarter game, Larry Foote. It shouldn't be. It really shouldn't. Don't worry. For those of you afraid of the lock death monster, like you're afraid of backup quarterbacks, I'm not locking this thing in. I'm not saying the Bucs are going to blow out the Giants. You should win this game by 10 points. You should feel pretty good going into the fourth quarter. It shouldn't need to be a fourth quarter game. I don't get it. He was talking also, and by the way, mentioned the changes earlier if you didn't see them. Troy Hill has been signed to the active roster. Kayvon Merriweather waived. Not shocking when you think about them bringing Mike Edwards back. But he talked about, because we said, we asked if they were going to do anything. I say we, I wasn't there. But the media asked if they were going to do anything different. And after that answer, he was asked, well, are the coaches on this staff willing to evolve?
When start with Bowles, the mastermind, if you can do a job for us, we're going to throw you in there, no matter what position. We got a lot of packages, different packages, and we come together during the week and, see what can help us win. But we'll put guys anywhere. We'll figure out what we're trying to stop, who use their strengths, and help us win on Sunday.
That's hard. Nobody wants to hear you call him a mastermind right now, the way this defense is performing. And you don't. You don't. Look how long it took to get Yaya Diaby in there. You can't say, oh, yeah, well, we'll just throw anybody in. No, you won't. You don't make changes fast enough. And that's part of the issue. All right, let's get Ryan in Tampa in quickly before the break. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Pat, how you doing today?
Well, how are you?
I'm doing good. Well, since you're selling pipe dreams, trying to get the Lightning owners involved, I figure I could throw out a pipe dream.
Listen, it can't be as unlikely as my pipe dream. So I know you're not wrong. My idea is a pipe dream, but I'm just, you know what it is? I'm a desperate Rays fan. I need the team to stay here, Ryan.
I'm right there with you. And since the Tampa Bay side's want to throw $300 million up front with extra later, I know Topkins said he's against multi-purpose stadiums, but hear me out on this.
So am I. I don't agree with Mark Topkin a whole lot, but I'll agree with him on that.
So hear me out on this. The new technology in stadiums, you could actually take the field and you can roll it out, put a different field in. You saw it happen with the NFL game in London. So we could physically roll out the baseball field and roll in the football field, and you could essentially have one stadium per sport, and they don't have to look like separate stadiums with the new technology.
Can we move the walls too, Ryan?
You can actually. They
Get
can
the
actually
F
do
out.
that as well.
Come on.
They can actually roll the stadium forward.
You might be winning me over on this one. Like, we could be the first. We could be the coolest.
So home plate is obviously has to be in a shape, right, in the back area of behind home plate, either in a diamond kind of shape or like a half circle behind home plate. That actually can roll forward to straighten it out, and the stadium can actually roll forward too. I've seen it done before.
Ryan, you might be onto something, dude.
When I was the head coach at Carrollwood Day School, we had a multi-purpose stadium, all turf. We didn't.
They got money over at Carrollwood Day School, don't they? A lot of rich parents.
Yeah. So the multi-purpose turf facility could work because Rays already play on turf. So you just take it out, roll in the new stadium for the Bucks, and you could essentially have one stadium with a movable seating area for fans.
Casey,
and that sideline would be low, right behind the fans, which would increase kind of their fan experience, kind of like in Dallas.
Ryan, I love it. It might be crazy, but so am I. Thank you for the phone call. We do have to get to this break, but Casey, do not let me forget. I need to take my ridiculously unlikely proposal and Ryan's ridiculously unlikely proposal and propose them to Aaron Jacobson and see which one he thinks is more absurd. Because I think they're both absurd, but I actually like both of them as well. That one sounds really cool. If we could have some kind of weird technology, we move walls, we move things, we move fields, and we've got one thing that does everything. I mean, it sounds kind of awesome. I don't know how likely it is.
Yeah,
like if it would work, but it sounds really cool.
It does.
Sounds like our friends at Suncoast Credit Union. They're very cool. They're there for you. They're a nonprofit organization. You think of a credit union, they're there to help you when it comes to saving money, all kinds of different things they can help you with. And that's why we love Suncoast Credit Union, not just because they give back to so many different charities in our community. You've heard about it the last 2 baseball seasons, giving back each year, every time a Rays player gets a base hit or hits a home run. But because they're a nonprofit, any money that comes in, it goes right back out to you. It goes back in ways that, they can create programs for you to do better financially. When it comes to saving money, their jumbo share certificates are unbelievable, much greater rate than you're going to get anywhere else. And that's why if you're looking at investing some money, saving some money, Suncoast Credit Union is a great way to go. But if you don't have an account there, believe me, you should. They're an unbelievable credit union, and they do great things for the community. And if you're a member there, they do great things for you. Find out more, suncoast.com, as we send you there every year to look up how to raise money for charities. But also, we want you to go there and find out how to do some good things for yourself, because Suncoast Credit Union is an unbelievable
Pat and Aaron Show on WDAE. Streaming live on Alexa and the free iHeartRadio app.
It's a bird. No, it's a plane. No.
Who are you supposed to be?
It's your friendly neighborhood situation man.
That's right. Time for Situation Men here on the Pat and Aaron Show, brought to you by Howard Team Home Loans and HowardTeamHomeLoans.com. Mr. Warner, what do we have today, young man?
We'll get it started with this one that I've had on the docket the last couple weeks, but I haven't really gotten to it with you and Aaron. And I got to ask you, Pat, I know me and you are two that kind of struggle with sleeping and getting up early and all that. So I got to ask you, it gets dark every night in the 5 p.m. hour, man. It's killing me. I don't like it. I really don't like it. Is there any advantage that you have due to this time change we got into 2 weeks ago?
No, not at all. I can't think of it like... More sunlight is always a good thing, right? I could never live in Alaska where it's dark for like 6 months at a time. You know what I mean? Like, no, I need the sunlight. All right. Heidi and I told her I'd make her steak fried rice like last week or the week before one night, right? And I woke up from my nap and I like to get my show prep done before I worry about, some other stuff. I had to make dinner like immediately because it was going to get dark if I waited at all. Like, no, there's zero advantage to it getting dark early.
Yeah, I'm glad we agree on that. All right, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, too. We were talking about cities that have lost pro sports teams and how it's not going to be Tampa Bay. Tampa's not going to lose the Rays, or Tampa Bay, that is not going to lose the Rays. So, which city that has lost a pro sports team do you view as the better sports city? San Diego obviously lost the Chargers, and then St. Louis lost the Rams and the football Cardinals.
I know. You almost want to lean San Diego because St. Louis lost two franchises. That's really difficult to do. However, if you think about it, the St. Louis Cardinals have been recognized as having one of the most passionate fan bases in all of baseball forever. And I feel like San Diego is a place where you hear about them having the least passionate fans ever. You know what I mean? Like when the Chargers were there, nobody was going. I felt like people cared about the Rams. People cared about even the Cardinals in St. Louis. But the problem was they couldn't pay for the stadium. Kind of looks like around here right now. But I just think they're more passionate fans in St. Louis than in San Diego.
I will say this past MLB playoffs, San Diego at Petco Park, they did show out. They had a pretty raucous environment there. I was impressed by that. But the St. Louis, they still got the Blues. They're a pretty good hockey town. I will give them that. So I agree with you, St. Louis. Always got a spot in my heart for St. Louis, for sure. All right, so we'll move on to sports stadiums that make you fear for your own personal safety. We just saw last night that a piece of sheet metal fell from Jerry's World. And you got to wonder, is that stadium falling apart? Is there a stadium you've been to that was literally falling apart that you knew you were just sitting in a dump and it made you fear for your safety?
No.
Never.
And I wouldn't say that about Jerry's World either, or the AT&T or whatever the hell they're calling that stadium now. Like, weird stuff happens, man. And that was weird. But overall, like, that's a beautiful stadium. All right, if we had that thing in Tampa Bay, we'd have a Super Bowl coming our way pretty soon. We might need a new stadium before they get us another Super Bowl. Who knows? But that's I hate the Cowboys, and I think they're a place they've screwed people in that stadium because they put places where like you absolutely don't want to sit or you're not going to see the game. But overall, it's a gorgeous stadium. I've never been in. The only time I can't even, I'm trying to think of any time where I've actually felt in danger.
The old Meadowlands didn't have you feeling like that?
No, not at all. No. And I've been to Shea, I've been to Fenway. Fenway, if anything, I'd feel like I might catch something because the whole place smells like pee.
Yeah. I've heard about that. Wechters told us about that before, too, so I can definitely understand that.
But I've never felt like I was in danger. The only time I could even think about that at all, as far as like the physical surroundings making me some kind. When we went to California, at the hotel we stayed at, the elevator in the parking garage was so rickety and it made like the weirdest noises. And all of a sudden, one time when like Heidi was at work and I was just doing something, I was in the elevator and it started making the weirdest noise. And I started thinking like, what if there was an earthquake and I got stuck in this thing? And like I wasn't actually afraid, but I had a moment of like, get me out of this elevator.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. The creaking definitely would not be something I would be liking either. That's not fun at all.
But never at a sports facility anywhere where I felt unsafe.
Gotcha. All right, one more here. We were talking about chicken cutlets before the show started today. I was admitting that, I need to have some chicken cutlets in my life. In the name of Tommy Chicken Cutlets DeVito, what would your self-given food nickname, Pat Donovan, be?
I hope Tommy did not create Tommy Cutlets on his own, for the record.
So.
I'm not a big self-nickname guy. I don't know.
Pot roast, Pat?
Yeah, it would
pot roast, man?
It would have to be. I do like pot roast. I don't love it. Like, when I think about the foods I love, I don't think, like, seared tuna Pat. It'd be like a very cool nickname, you know?
I like mine. Mine would be Quesadilla Case.
Oh, you put some thought into this.
Quesadilla. Yeah, people have always called me Quesadilla sometimes. So
Really?
I'll take that. Yeah.
I like that. I don't know how I never thought of that. I'm a nickname guy. I like throwing around nicknames. But yeah, I don't know. Something that would relate to me being fat, I'm sure. It would have to be, like, I wouldn't want to give myself that nickname, but I feel like that's the way it would go.
Maybe people can text in some names they got for you, huh?
No, I don't know if we want that.
That's what we got.
I don't want that. You might want that. That Situation Man on the Pat and Aaron Show. When we return, we've got a loaded 8 o'clock hour as well. We're going to talk about the Rays. Are we in jeopardy of losing the team altogether? And a lot more, all coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. More Bucks talk as well as we get ready for the New York Giants on Sunday. All coming up on the Pat and Aaron Show on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. But first, want to remind you, I don't know if he's listening. He texted me about the show a little while ago, but I've been poking fun at Aaron ever since last week about trying to be like me. Because as I mentioned, we went to Philadelphia one year. I had this nice pea coat on. The next year, he had almost the exact same pea coat on. And now he's done it again. Not with clothing, but instead with a Mazda. I've been telling you forever how much you're going to love the car buying experience at Mazda. For some reason, Aaron was thinking about this dealership or that, this kind of car, that. And I'm like, dude, why don't you just go to Mazda? You've got to go see Derek and my friends at Mazda of Clearwater. It's going to be the best car buying experience of your life. He ended up leasing a car, but oh, by the way, he leased a Mazda 3, just like I own a Mazda 3. He wants to be just like me, I'm telling you. But you don't have to want to be like me to want to get the best car buying experience of your life. And I'm telling you, that's exactly what you'll get with my friends at Mazda of Clearwater. So make sure you go see them if you're looking at a new or even pre-owned vehicle. Right now is the time to get to Mazda of Clearwater, because right now you can drive a Mazda for 90 days with no payment. And also, rates coming down right now. And many models at Mazda are even at 0%
And Show on WDAE, streaming live on Alexa and the free iHeartRadio app.
Pat Aaron Show, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. Hour number 3, if you want to jump aboard, 888-546-4620. You can also text your thoughts to the Bartow Ford DAE text line. That's 82945. Message and data rates may apply. Make sure you start your text with DAE. A lot of nicknames coming in on the Bartow Ford DAE text line, food-related nicknames, not as hateful as I expected them to be. We'll get to some of those in a few minutes, but the Rays, it's a massive day for the Rays and for Rays fans and the city of St. Pete. And the Pinellas County Commission will vote today, maybe, on the bond certificate to pay for the Rays' new ballpark. I think, reading the tea leaves in the Tampa Bay Times, that it's probably going to get delayed again. I don't know if that completely collapses this entire deal, but it sounds like it's going to. And it sounds like we could be in a spot once again, despite the fact that I got a nice little here-to-stay pin at home that I can wear on my lapel. And there are here-to-stay billboards all over the place. And we had a nice little press conference, and the mayor was there, and St. Pete City Council members were there. Pinellas County commissioners were there. It's so infuriating as a Rays fan to be back at this point where we don't know what the hell's going to happen with this club. It's really unfair to Rays fans. And I don't think anybody's necessarily in it just to screw Rays fans. I went pretty hard at Pinellas County Commissioner Chris Latvala. And by the way, I think he deserved it. But I don't know that anybody's just like, oh, I want to screw the Rays, or I want to screw Rays fans. And I said earlier in the show, there may be arguments to be made that this deal was not great for St. Pete taxpayers. And I get it. I'm basically just a big sports ogre that just wants my baseball team. And I've said it a million times, like, you want to put it in Hillsborough? Tax me. Please. I will gladly pay some taxes for the Rays to have a stadium in Hillsborough if it were up to me. And I get it. There are things that are more important. But take a little look behind the closed door. Take a little look at money that we spend in politics on just garbage. And you can't convince me that something that is as beneficial to a city as having a baseball team and a baseball stadium is not a good thing. And again, I'm a big fat sports ogre and I want my baseball team, right? I'm not going to go deep into every single diamond where it all goes. I'm probably not smart enough to do it. But I want my damn baseball team. And I think I'm like a lot of Rays fans today where I'm just like befuddled. I'm just so frustrated because all I want is when you stand in front of me and say, this thing's done, we're here to stay, that it's true. And I don't think Stu Sternberg's a perfect owner. I don't. I think there are reasons to criticize him and the way things have happened. But I don't really care. As a Rays fan, I don't care. You know, we had somebody text in earlier in the show when I was talking about this, and they were like, to be honest with you, ever since Montreal and that whole nonsense, I just don't care as much. I'm not telling you that you can't or shouldn't feel that way, but I've never in my life rooted for an owner. I don't ever go to Tropicana Field and say, man, I hope they get this one for Stu, baby. I don't ever go to Raymond James Stadium and, you know, sneak out of the press box and go down to the field. Yeah, Glazers. All right. Even Jeff Vinnick, who has proven to be maybe the best owner in sports. I don't root for him. I love him. I don't root for him. I root for the Rays. I'm sorry, for the Lightning in that situation. So to be frustrated with Stu and that side of things or whatever, I get it. To not root for a team you have loved because of that, I don't. I mean, Aaron's a Knicks fan. If you're ever going to walk away from a franchise or not care as much because the owner is who he is, boy, that Knicks team is right up there. Because James Dolan sucks. I mean, he sucks. He threw Charles Oakley out of the building. That guy sucks. But to me, I root for the baseball team. I don't root for Stu Sternberg. Somebody, I don't think I can say it the way that the person on the Bartow Ford DAE text line says it, but they basically said I am very nice to Jeff Vinik. That's true. I made the man hug me on behalf of all Lightning fans one time. He didn't love it. I did. I did it for you. But yeah, listen, Jeff Vinik has been unbelievable as an owner. He's been unbelievable for the franchise. He's been unbelievable for the city. So you're not wrong on the Bartow Ford DA text line, but man, he deserves it. He deserves it. And speaking of Jeff Vinik, if you missed earlier in the show, I'm going to tell you why I think potentially he could be involved if St. Pete drops the ball. And when I say that, I don't mean I think he's going to be. I don't mean that there have been any suggestions that he will. I'm telling you there's a reason why he could and maybe should if St. Pete drops the ball. And St. Pete's in the driver's seat. And I want to mention, I mentioned this a little bit as well. The reason why I don't think it's happening for Tampa is because I said earlier anyways, they were only going to have $300 million for a ballpark. And the Rays were never going to, when St. Pete's doing double that, the Rays were never going to come here for that kind of money. But Ken Hagan actually texted me and let me know $300 million was up front. They were going to offer much more than $600 million, but it was going to be over time to protect the taxpayers. Man, maybe that's something to revisit, Stu. Maybe that's something to consider. There's ways, I'm sure, financially to push things around, but we got to get this thing done. And I don't think it's going to be Tampa. St. Pete needs to make this thing happen, but unfortunately, we're in a position where we have no idea if they're going to. All right, we can continue this conversation on the other side. We do have to hit a quick break, though, but we'll talk more about this, maybe some Bucks football. 888-546. Chris, I see you there. You're going to lead off on the other side. 888-546-4620. More on the Rays, more on the Bucks. It's a massive day for Tampa Bay sports. Hopefully something happens and things turn out differently than we expect today. It does not sound that great for those of us who are Rays fans. What can sound great for you is going to Suncoast Credit Union.
Radio app.
Pan Aaron 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. It is a Game of Thrones and Taco Tuesday, and hopefully there's not a lot of shame to go around today after the Pinellas County Commission votes on the bonds for, may vote on the bonds for New Rays Ballpark. I think they're probably, if you read a lot about what's going on, they're probably going to delay it again, which it's not good. And I got a text during the break on the Bartow Ford DA text line. Do you think it's possible the Rays never play at the Trop again and they move after next season? I think it is much more likely that they never play at the Trop again than they move after next season. I don't know where they'd go in the meantime if they couldn't go back to the Trop, but I think it's going to be very difficult for this franchise to leave the area. Like, apparently it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to stay here as well. I know there are cities, and by the way, there have been cities that were willing to pay for a new stadium. The Rays could have left already. And I think a lot of you that believe that Stu Sternberg is just trying to position to leave are wrong. And again, we talked about it in the last segment. I don't think he's a perfect owner. I also don't think he's the worst owner, like a lot of you do. I can't figure out, I'm not smart enough to figure out how to get this thing done, but it's got to get done. And it's funny because somebody I just saw was tweeted and said, Pat Donovan offered to pay taxes to keep the Rays here. He lives in Hillsborough currently. The entire Tampa Bay area should be involved. Again, I am not nearly smart enough to know how these things work. I don't think you're ever going to get counties outside of Pinellas to pitch in to build a ballpark for Pinellas. And that, by the way, was not what I meant. Now, if it were up to me, would I do that? I would. I'll pay the penny tax or whatever the hell it is on stuff. Like, I'll pay more taxes if I can, if I have to keep the Rays in our own backyard. Wasn't my suggestion because I just don't, it's complete. When I talk about, hey, what if we get Jeff Vinnick, Doug Ostrover, and Mark Lipschultz involved, I think it's completely unlikely, but not necessarily unrealistic. To suggest that other counties around Pinellas also pay taxes to help Pinellas build the ballpark, that to me is unrealistic. Would I be in favor of it? Sure. As I said earlier, I'm a big sports ogre. I just want my sports. And if I got to pay a couple shekels here and there on taxes on stuff to keep, I'm going to do that. I wouldn't suggest everybody do that. I don't think it's fair of me. On the Bartow Ford DAE text line, I don't care where the Rays Stadium is in Hillsborough or Pinellas. Again, I don't care. I will say the same distance from Dallas to Jerryland as it is from Tampa to the Trop. Cowboys have no problem filling that stadium because it's football, not baseball. Sure. There's also a lot of people right around there and land right around there. And I just think it's apples and oranges. It's apples and oranges. As I've mentioned in the past, when you talk about building a stadium, I don't know a lot. I'm not a genius, but here's something I do know from talking to people that are smarter than me. You look, when you're going to build a stadium, one of the first things you look at is how many people live within X amount of miles around that stadium. And you know who lives around the Trop? It's Fish. It's not a great location, and it won't be for a new ballpark either. I think there are several reasons why we will do better in a new ballpark at that location, including what's going to go on around it. But it's not just as simple as football or baseball. It's just not. And honestly, comparing a football team that has to sell 10 tickets a year to a baseball team that has to sell 81 is silly. It's just silly. You want to make a more close comparison, the team you should be comparing the Rays to are the Lightning. And as I've said, if you look at most metrics outside of attendance, the reality is the Rays are significantly more popular than the Lightning are. They are. So the Lightning drawing more people, it's not just about 41 versus 81. A lot of it has to do with location. But again, the location around the Trop right now is not very nice. In a few years, if things happen the way they're supposed to happen, it's going to be very nice. And yes, that will absolutely change. You know, earlier I was making the point that Chris Latvala said, hey, we're going to lose the bed tax this year because the Rays are in Hillsborough. I'm like, why would you be willing to lose the bed tax forever? Because you're going to lose all those people that would come for bed. And somebody texted in and said, tourists don't come here for the Rays. They come here for the beaches. I won't necessarily argue that. But have you never taken a sports trip? Have you never decided to go somewhere for sports? Because I think a lot of people do. I know I have. And the reality is, if you know that the ballpark is surrounded by not much, that absolutely changes whether or not you want to go to that location. You're going to pick other ballparks first. You're going to pick other cities first. You're going to come here. You're going to go to Atlanta. You're going to go to Atlanta because of all the stuff around the ballpark that makes it an amazing trip. Well, a lot of that stuff is exactly what we're going to do in St. Pete if this all goes through. So it's totally different. I just think, and you're right on the Bartow 48 text line, Fish do not attend baseball games or any games. Although there are Stingrays at the Trop when there is a Trop, so they sort of attend the games. The reality is the answer is not going to be easy, but it's got to be found. And I don't think that comparing baseball to football or saying this is a football state, I just don't think it's accurate. Well, it is a football state. And as I said earlier, there's a lot of football states because football is king and it should be. But does that mean it's the only thing we should have? Does that mean we shouldn't want baseball because it's a football state? Does that mean baseball can't work here? To me, the answer is emphatically no. Because look at the ratings. Look at how many people care about the Rays. I'm telling you, during hockey season, I can talk Lightning hockey until I'm blue in the face. And you're probably not texting me. You're probably not calling me. But when I talk Rays baseball, you are. When Aaron and I are sitting here talking about the Rays, you are much more involved than when we talk about the Lightning. And it's not because people don't love the Lightning. It's because more people love the Rays. So don't tell me that baseball can't work here. I think it's nonsense. I do. All right. We've got a lot more to get to. We'll talk some Bucks football on the other side. And we'll continue this conversation as well if you want to jump aboard. 888-546-4620. You can also text 82945. Start your text with DAE if you want to get aboard or we'll never see you.
Ferguson HVAC.
Pat Aaron Show, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. 888-546-4620. If you want to jump aboard, you can also text your thoughts to the Bartow Ford DAE text line 82945. Message and data rates may apply. Make sure you start your text with DAE. I was wrong once already about the Giants on Sunday, and a lot of you think I'm wrong in general when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because I've been saying I really believe this team has a chance to win 6 or even all of their final 7 games because of the competition ahead of them. It's not good. The Chargers are the only good football team left. However, I've already been wrong once when it comes to the New York Giants game this Sunday, because I've been telling you since last week, the writing was on the wall, and everywhere you looked, people were talking about the fact that the Giants were probably going to sit Daniel Jones because they have a $23 million injury guarantee. And so they would have to pay him $23 million if he's hurt. And then they wouldn't be able to get rid of him this offseason, which is obviously what they want to do, is move on from Daniel Jones. So they were going to make a move, and I was telling you all last week, like, yeah, it's going to be Drew Lock. Drew Lock's going to start for the Giants next week. And don't freak out, because I know a lot of Buccaneer fans, you don't like the backup quarterbacks. You're afraid of backup and rookie quarterbacks. Well, first of all, the numbers aren't as bad as you think when it comes to those things. Yeah, I know some rookies and some backups have beaten the Buccaneers and at times have looked really good against the Buccaneers. The number's still not as bad, especially against rookies, as you think. But I've been saying the Giants would probably sit Daniel Jones, and we would end up seeing Drew Lock on Sunday. Not the case. Instead, Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets, back in for the New York Giants on Sunday. And I asked the question, and I asked it earlier. I wonder what you think about this. I didn't get many replies to it earlier, but I've seen so many Buccaneer fans panic about rookie quarterbacks and backup quarterbacks that I decided to ask earlier, which one is scarier to you? If the Giants would have gone with their second-string quarterback, Drew Lock, or promoted Tommy Cutlets DeVito all the way from third string to starting quarterback. Which one is scarier, second-string quarterback or a third-string quarterback? I don't believe it should be either for the Buccaneers. And I said it earlier, I'll say it again. To me, I don't care if it's Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, Phil Simms, Casey Warner. I don't give a damn who you put at quarterback. The Giants team should not beat the Buccaneers. Now, we'll see what Aaron says tomorrow. He did mention to me, when I mentioned this before he was out, he said, well, what do the Giants do best? And they do have some really good pass rushers, and they get after the quarterback, no doubt. And we could be without Tristan Wirfs on Sunday. We'll get our first injury report of the week tomorrow. So, yes, you could have a weak spot there where the Giants are able to get after Baker Mayfield a little bit. You run the football. And they've got a really good defensive line. I get it. But you're going to be able to move the ball against that team. You've moved the ball against everyone. All right? You've played the best run defenses in the NFL this season, and you've run the football well. And at times, honestly, in my opinion, without enough commitment to the run. There's been games where I wish they would have run the ball more, and I know it's hard when you get down. But at the end of the day, the Bucs have played Baltimore, who has now the second best run defense in football. The best is Minnesota. Oh, there might be there's a bye week discrepancy there. I should look at, instead of at yards per game is probably a better look. But Minnesota, Baltimore, both great. We haven't played Minnesota, obviously, but the Bucs, they played Baltimore, who's second in the league against the rush, and they ran the ball for 125 yards. They played against Kansas City and ran the ball fairly well, and they're third in the league against the rush. So the Giants, by the way, they've actually given up a ton of rushing yards despite having a very good defensive line. I didn't realize it was as bad for them. I thought they were maybe a little bit in the middle of the pack. It's actually, they're the fourth worst run defense in the NFL. That's I mean, you should be able to run the football. So, yes, you could be without Tristan Wirfs. Baker Mayfield could be running for his life a little bit. But the advantage is still Buccaneers in this football game, regardless of who's at quarterback for the Giants. And again, I know you are very afraid. Very afraid. On the Bartow Ford DA text line, Cutlets is scary. Is he? I know the kid had a couple of fun games last year, and everyone loved the story of his family going to games and making cutlet sandwiches for everybody outside. I get it. But I'm not afraid of Tommy Cutlets. Neither should you be. And I know the last time I said this, I said I wasn't afraid of the Denver Broncos, and we saw how that turned out. Listen, we've learned the Denver Broncos, as wrong as I was, really good football team. That's not the case with the New York Giants. They've got a really good defensive line and a great, well, he looks like he's going to be great, rookie receiver in Malik Neighbors. That's about it. They got a couple other, they've got some good football players. That's a bad football team.
Tyrone Tracy has done an exceptional job this year.
Exceptional?
I would say he's done a lot better than people thought. Everybody thought Devin Singletary was going to be the starter all year. I did, personally.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'd say he's been exceptional. I think he had a big fumble in the last game, by the way, if my memory serves me correct. But let's take a look at the action. I haven't looked at the 5.1 yards of carry is very good. That's very good. But overall, he has been good. I didn't think Singletary was going to be much. I mean, that's not a very talented backfield, certainly. We're a lot more talented here, that's for sure, when it comes to what the Buccaneers have. I've got to see Bucky Irving start getting more carries. And Sean, we just get Sean Tucker involved at all. But game plan aside, players not plays is a phrase that, if you listen to the insiders, Rick Stroud has used a lot this year, that he got from, how am I drawing a blank on, he just wrote the book about him. Good God. My memory.
The players coach?
Yeah.
Tom Moore.
Thank you, Tom Moore. I love Tom Moore, too. I've quoted my favorite quote about Peyton Manning of all time like a million times. You've heard that one, right, Casey?
Remind me?
He was once asked, when he was the offensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts, why Jim Sorgi wasn't getting more.
Oh, yeah, I remember now.
Yeah. Well, and for those of you listening who haven't heard it, Jim Sorgi wasn't getting enough snaps at practice, according to one reporter who asked Tom Moore why that was the case. And Tom Moore said, if 18 goes down, we're effed. And we don't practice effed. And that's true. And you know what? Might be true if Baker Mayfield goes down here as well. But the reality is, the quote that Rick Stroud has been using from Tom Moore a lot this season on the Insiders is players, not plays. Meaning, you can coach as well as you want. If you don't have anybody who can cover the middle of the field, you're going to give up wide open passing plays all the time. You can coach as well as you want, but if you don't have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin out there, you're not going to throw the ball for a lot of yards to wide receivers. And even though we've seen this Bucs offense continue to play, I think, really good football, they're getting very little from the wide receiver position until Sunday when they get Mike Evans back, which I can't. It's going to be, as a Buccaneer fan, it's going to be really nice to see Mike out there because Baker needs him. Baker needs him. And I've said this before. I've been really impressed with Cade Otton. He's been better than I probably thought he could be. But unfortunately, he's not very explosive. And you need explosive plays in this league to win football games. And if the offense is, I love him as an outlet. I love him for first downs. But your offense needs to make explosive plays. And they're not going through Cade Otton. You need help from the wide receivers. And right now, they haven't been getting it. But I'll tell you what, even if they came out and said tomorrow, you know what, Mike Evans not quite ready yet, we're going to hold him out one more week, you should beat the New York Giants. The team's bad. It's a bad football team. All right, when we return, we're going to get into, it's actually time for the blender. This show has flown by today, Casey Warner.
It has.
It is time for the blender. We're going to wrap the show up with any news we may have missed during today's show. But the big news today is the Rays could potentially lose the votes for their ballpark, and we could be in a very bad spot come tomorrow morning. We'll find out what the Pinellas County Commission decides to do later today, but it might just lead to all of us needing to break out the Bandito. We might need to go pull out the El Bandito Yankee Tequila and take a couple shots because as Rays fans, this could be a rough day. Hopefully it's not. We'll find out later today. But if it's that time tonight, you need a shot or two, or you're tailgating on Sunday. I know the game's in Jersey. Maybe you're going to Jersey. Maybe you're wherever you're tailgating, wherever you're drinking, break out the Bandito. It is so smooth. It is criminal. You can get it at Lucan's, a lot of other places around town. El Bandito Yankee Tequila. It is delicious.
Streaming live on Alexa and the free iHeartRadio app.
The Blender.
The Blender on the Pat Aaron Show is brought to you by Mazda of Clearwater. If you're thinking about a new or pre-owned vehicle, the choice is clear. Do what Aaron and I have both done now. He got himself a Mazda 3 last week, just like I bought mine a couple years ago. Go to Mazda of Clearwater, right on US 19, just south of Roosevelt and East Bay Drive, or you can go online to MazdaofClearwater.com. What have we missed during today's show, Mr. Warner?
Not to anyone's surprise, but the Bears lost to the Packers on Sunday, 20-19. And it was a blocked 46-yard field goal as time expired that sealed the Bears' fate.
A couple times in a few weeks we've seen that.
Yeah. Chicago Bears head coach Matt Eberflus says they should have had a chance to redo that kick, citing that a penalty was committed by Green Bay on the final play of the game. Eberflus says he will turn in the blocked field goal to the league office because he believes the Packers were on their long snapper. There was no flag called, and Bears long snapper Patrick Scales, if you rewatch the replay, appears to be knocked down at the line of scrimmage by Packers Carl Brooks and TJ Slayton. The rule states it is illegal to make contact with a long snapper when their head is down, as they are considered defenseless. This puts the Bears at 4-6, the Packers at 7-3. I don't think there's any way Eberflus survives this season. Do you?
No, I don't. That's why I said it was terrible to change the offensive coordinator, because now you're going to be on your third if you're Caleb Williams by the beginning of next season, which not great for that kid. But like, who cares, dude? Sorry.
Reaching.
Sorry, bud. Like, guess what happens? The NFL might go, hey, you know what? You were right. We got that one wrong. And then what?
That's it. And then you're still 4-6.
You're still 4-6.
Yeah. In one of the toughest divisions in football at that. So I personally believe there's no way Eberflus survives this. If they somehow make the playoffs, maybe, but I just don't see it happening in the next division.
It's so weird. I remember so many people before the season saying, oh, you watch, Caleb Williams going to be really good. This defense is great. They're going to win 10, 11 games. The Bears are the most underrated team in football. And I was like, what? I never saw it. I don't believe in that Chicago Bears team at all. And not that they can never be good, but I knew they weren't going to be good this year. I suspected they weren't going to be good this year.
Hasn't quite worked out this season for sure. So the ballot for the 2025 Baseball Hall of Fame just came out yesterday. The Baseball Writers Association of America has considered the following players as newcomers this season.
Do they just put everyone in? Do they just put everyone in the pool to potentially get into the Hall of Fame?
Is that what you think based on these guys, really? So we got Ichiro Suzuki, CC Sabathia, Dustin Pedroia, Carlos Gonzalez, Hanley Ramirez, and Felix Hernandez up for newcomers this year on the ballot. Any of those guys strike you as first ballot kind of guys?
First ballot? Yeah, there might be a couple of first ballot guys
I think
in there.
Ichiro's got to be.
There's more. I saw a more complete list. The names that you named, like, they're significant, and then there's a reason why.
A couple Rays that made it.
Like, Ben Zobrist is on the list.
Fernando Rodney.
I don't know what it is about Ben Zobrist. I love the guy. He's a great human being. He has been one of the most overrated baseball players I've ever seen in my life. And he did great things for this team, so I feel bad saying it. But I remember one year we were having this whole discussion about people trying to tell me he was in the MVP race because his WAR was great. Mm-hmm. WAR is the dumbest statistic in the history of sports, okay? I don't know how. I think you have to add like a guy's batting average times his weight, his wife's weight, multiplied by
the calories he ate in a day.
I mean, just all like neighbors' addresses, like they throw it all in there to get WAR. It's like if WAR tells you that Ben Zobrist is one of the best players in baseball, again, a very good player, right? Did some great things for this franchise. But if WAR tells you that Ben Zobrist is one of the best teams, one of the best players in all of baseball, then WAR is a useless stat. Kyle Crawford as well, I think, is on the list, right? I love Kyle Crawford. I don't believe he's a Hall of Fame player. Like,
I think he might have got on the list first last year. This isn't his first year.
Oh, CC was Sabathia.
Year. Yeah,
that's what it was.
CC Sabathia, and then a couple others I didn't mention. Ian Kinsler, Troy Tulowitzki, Brian McCann, Curtis Granderson, Adam Jones. I don't feel personally any of those guys are first ballot, but
a lot of those guys I don't think are Hall of Famous at all. Especially like baseball. Like baseball
75%.
is like very difficult Hall of Fame to get into because baseball writers are such stiffs. and they're such schmucks that they make it so difficult, and their standards are ridiculous. I don't know what it is about baseball writers that are so different than other writers, but so many of them suck, man.
Yeah, it's definitely the toughest Hall of Fame to get into. And for those out there that don't know, those who get at least 5% of the vote get to hang around on the ballot for up to 10 years. There are currently 14 returning players on the ballot for 2025. We'll move on to NBA action tonight. The Cleveland Cavaliers are looking to extend their undefeated streak. They're 15-0, and they got a tough one tonight at TD Garden against the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are favored by 5 points. You can catch that one at 7 p.m. on TNT tonight.
I don't go out of my way, and by the way, I won't tonight, so I don't want to make it sound like I'm going to. I don't go out of my way to watch a lot of basketball games, but if there's one I might tune into a little bit, because I still think Boston probably the best team in basketball. But what the Cavaliers are doing to start this season is pretty remarkable. And I think it's going to be a great game to watch. I, of course, will be watching the Tampa Bay Lightning and not the NBA. But if there's a game that I might peek over, I hate intermission. I don't know what it is. It's the one thing that just drives me crazy about hockey is it's not as long as it feels like, but it feels like intermission's half an hour long.
Oh, I've noticed that too. Since I've watched more hockey since living down here, the intermissions are like separate half times, in my opinion. It's tough.
It's really rough. And you know what it is? I'm so busy during football, and I care so much about the other games on that halftime is like a blink of an eye.
Oh, it is. It always is, yeah.
Whereas I'm usually, when I watch the Lightning, unless it's like at the intersection where the Lightning and Rays are, playing at the same time, more times than not when I'm watching the Lightning, I'm only watching the Lightning. I'm not flipping back over to other, especially because I got to use the app. I'm not flipping back over to other stuff. Whereas with football, it's like, ooh, I get a second to go see the other games. It's like exciting. Halftime during football does not see, and I think it's longer than I don't know exactly how long the intermissions are, to be honest with you.
I think NFL halftime's what, 15?
It's 12.
20 minutes?
12 minutes.
Oh, okay. Just 12. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm telling you, when you're at the game, I'll go grab a bite, talk to somebody for 2 minutes, and the next thing you know, I look up and there's a kickoff happening again,
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with that. And to set the line for tonight, that one's at 7 p.m. Lightning heading to Pittsburgh to PPG Paints Arena to play the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins are coming in at 7, 10, and 3. Lightning at 9, 6, and 1. The over-under 6.5 in this one. And the Lightning are favored minus 130 to win this one.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, they're playing some good hockey. There was a bit of a dip, and there's going to be, I think this team, it's going to take a little while to build the kind of continuity that's going to make them as good as they can be. I love the way that Jake Gensel is fit onto that top line. And by the little homecoming for Jake Gensel, of course,
that's right.
Spent most of his career with the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. So they've won 2 in a row in very impressive fashion, of course. A couple games ago, Vasilevsky, the fastest ever to 300 victories. And then, of course, 2 nights ago, the shutout. So they're on a nice little run here, and hopefully they can keep that up tonight. It's all we have for you today. Let's all hope and pray, and whatever the hell else we do, let's cross our fingers. Let's hope that somebody gets their heads out of there, what's in Pinellas today, and gets this thing done for the Rays. I don't want to know what we'll be talking about tomorrow if we don't, but I'm not optimistic. It's all we have time for. Again, thank you so much to all the men and women who serve our country and allow us to be morons for a living. Thank you, and thank you. Sorry, I'm losing my mind over here. I'm trying to read the text line while I'm talking to you. It's a bad idea. Thank you to the men and women who serve our country and let me be a moron and try to do 2 things at once. I can't do that.